Gather round, everyone, and prepare to be swept away by the thrilling exploits of Gino Cuddy, Clive Davis, and Nick Sheehan as they embark on a daring journey across the silent screen. They'll ride through the annals of film history, recounting the captivating saga of the silver screen's very first Western superstar. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Hart to Hart, the William S. Hart podcast.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode number 14 of Hart to Hart, the William S. Hart podcast. I am, of course, Gino Cuddy, and I am joined by my regular co-hosts, Nick Sheehan and Clive Davis. This is actually going to be our penultimate episode of reviewing films because the next episode we will finally be getting to, we'll be reviewing Three Word Brand, and we will also finally be reviewing William S. Hart's final film, Tumbleweeds, next episode. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get into the films that we're going to be reviewing tonight. The films that we're going to be reviewing tonight are The Whistle and White Oak. Let's start with The Whistle. This was preceded by a film that's unavailable for us to view called O'Malley of the Mounted. The Whistle was released April 23rd, 1921. It was produced by the William S. Hart Company and distributed by Paramount Artcraft. It was directed by Lambert Hillier with a screenplay by Lambert Hillier from a story by Mary Wilmoth and Olin Lyman. It was photographed by Joe August with art direction being handled by J.C. Hoffner and art titles by Harry Barndollar. And the cast consists of Robert Evans being portrayed by William S. Hart, Mrs. Chapel being portrayed by Myrtle Steadman, Henry Chapel being portrayed by Frank Brownlee, George Chapel being portrayed by George E. Stone, Danny Evans being portrayed by Will Jim Henton, Baby Chapel being portrayed by Richard Hedrick, and Scardon being portrayed by the great Robert Cortman. And the plot of this film is, The Whistle is a story of capital and labor. Robert Evans and Danny, father and son, are workers in the shop of Henry Chapel, a hard-headed businessman. Evans, as foreman of the shop, urges Chapel to make repairs necessary to avoid accidents. Chapel talks of contracts to be filled and refuses. That day, Danny is caught in a defective belt and killed. Evans is walking by a river in an emotional frenzy over his son's death when Chapel's automobile plunges into the water. He rescues Chapel's infant son, who was in the car with the chauffeur, and bitter at having lost his boy, kidnaps the infant, leading the Chapels to believe their child dead. Later, Chapel befriends Evans, and when the working man sees that Mrs. Chapel's life is dependent upon having the boy he claims as his adopted son, and when Chapel reforms, he confesses his deed and returns the child. This is a film that I think, especially Nick, was looking forward to viewing, and so I'd like to get Nick's thoughts right off the bat here.
Yes. So this is really interesting for me. Obviously,
I knew this was catnip for Nick.
Your mileage will vary, so to establish maybe why it is, I have a pretty strong interest in the struggle between labor and capital, between bosses and workers, that whole thing.
He's a filthy commie.
I'm surprised to see a William S. Hart film that definitely seems like a fellow traveler to me. It feels like it's pretty pinko commie stuff in some ways, which is why I'm fascinated by the opening and closing title cards, because I think they're trying to contain some of the potential damage this film could do. I think this is a film that struggled with itself.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And
this film was actually banned in some states for its commentary.
Yeah, I'm
not
surprised.
No.
So I'm obviously predisposed. This is as you said, this is catnip for me, right? This is the story of a working man who is whose son dies, right? And that is, I have to say, I'm really impressed by, I guess, the simultaneous restraint and lack of restraint in that scene. Because some directors would have simply had that happen off screen, right? And other directors might have leaned into the pathos of it all and kind of made it like a mawkish moment. But this film does neither. It's brutally honest, I feel. It happens so fast, but it's really clear. William S. Hart runs in, he cradles his dying child, and it's It's
Who is severely bloodied up, by the way, a very bloody child, by the way.
yeah, it's I mean it's just not something. I mean Hollywood and I mean in fact world cinema is often very leery of putting child endangerment or child death on screen, right? I mean famously Alfred Hitchcock said his greatest mistake was showing Stevie get blown up in his adaptation of Conrad's Secret Agent, right? Um, and so he said, because he said, once you do that, the audience is never going to forgive you. If you know, you can't basically kill a dog and you can't kill a child
Hmm.
on screen, according to yeah Hollywood. So this film, yeah, it goes there, um, and so like for my, I guess you know, it depends on your perspective how much you're going to sympathize with what he does next, right? I do. I sympathize with
I
his
do as
choice.
well, yeah. I
I
mean, I
sympathize
don't
with his
condone
choice.
it, but I
Nope.
sympathize and understand why.
Yeah, and there's two reasons why. One is because he's legitimately, correctly very angry his child has been taken from him, and he's rescuing the child also from the negligence of the same person, right? It's the factory owner whose choices on the factory floor have led to his child dying, and now the same poor choices, right? He's made this guy who's working at the wherever it is, right, work at a super long shift, so he falls asleep, and that's what causes the child and the car to go into the river, right? Is that this guy's not able to do his job. So really, he's kind of potentially endanger the lives of both children. So I feel like William S. Hart's character, Robert Evans, is kind of right to be like, you know what? You're not worthy of having a child. You know, you killed mine and you can't protect your own. Your own crappiness, your own avarice and greed is led to this moment. So and then yeah, so then you know, there is the road to Damascus moment. There is the slow building of guilt on his part, right? And I think it's all fairly well handled. Like you know what? I felt like in many ways William S. Hart, this is one of his most, for me, nuanced performances. I think there's not a lot of hand wringing and like there's a little bit, it's a silent
Yeah.
film, right? But it's not
Yet
over
it
the
is
top.
quite still quite operatic, I feel.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
it does it's quite well judged in that way, right?
Mm.
Like you said, it's not necessarily overwrought, but also you're not missing any of the emotional beats, right? If you're paying attention. It's
Yeah.
up there on a big canvas, right?
Hmm. Um, so ultimately, where this film really troubles me or confuses me is the film itself, not counting the beginning and the end of these kind of title cards that try to contain the danger of this film, right? But the film itself is could have been written by Upton Sinclair or the young John Steinbeck. Like it's as I said, it's going for broke. It's really showing you what happens when money is free from ethics, when money is free from governmental control, when wealthy people can just do whatever the hell they want.
Oh,
And
Nick, you're wrong there because
oh,
that's
am
what's
I?
going on now, and the world is fine, right? Didn't
Oh,
you
that's
know?
true.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. We're all
How,
it's
how
all
silly of
good.
me,
It's
Clive.
all good.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So
there is that sequence where Hart, as Robert Evans, is confronted by a woman who's I believe it's her husband dies at the factory as well, and all Chapel can do is give her some money
yeah,
and
Yeah,
for her trouble instead of actually taking care of the issue that caused his death. And Hart even says at one point, none of your filthy money could fix these problems. So yeah, very, very interesting commentary that we're getting here at this time. 1921. I mean, this is like about 7 years before Metropolis,
yeah. Which
which
also
Paramount, curiously enough, also released in the States.
is it
But
prior to Upton Sinclair's The Jungle as well?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think so.
So, Gino, do you know? Because you mentioned that it did have problems in some states getting released, and to your point, Nick, the kind of that weird kind of suddenly there's like a little salve on the wound. Do you know if by any chance the film might have been released originally without that, got into trouble, and then the studio decided to add those title cards? Do you know at all if there's a story behind that or?
no, actually. Maybe a quick IMDb search could reveal something, but I honestly don't know. I mean,
Yeah. It
how do I
wouldn't
even
surprise
start?
me either way. It
Yeah,
wouldn't surprise,
yeah.
whether they hedged their bets from the beginning or if they kind of corrected for it. Both.
Gino, I'm glad you brought that up actually about saying that yeah, I'd forgotten that. So, like just to unpack some of the ending of this a little bit more. So yeah, basically he is feeling guilty. He sees how much pain the mother is in, and he realizes that he's been so focused, his vengeance has been solely focused on his ex-boss, right? And so he hasn't really thought about the collateral damage of the wife and the child, right? I mean, basically part of it is the child starts to ask questions about his real parents, right? Because he hasn't really grown up with them. Um, but so he goes back to the house, and this is when, yeah, he sees the woman that you just talked about, Gino, and that's when he kind of realizes, oh, wait, we're like 5 years on, and you still haven't spent the money to make the place safe. People are still dying there. You watched my son die, and that's when he really loses his shit basically, and really
Mhm.
starts laying it on thick. And the other thing that I think is very sensitively and well handled is he has a kind of post-traumatic stress response to the whistle, right? Which is the title
Right,
of the film.
right. I
Mm,
was about to
mm.
say that. Yeah,
Yeah. Multiple times in the film, we see him just as he's going to kind of make a choice or maybe make a different choice. The whistle goes and his rage comes back, and he's just like, no, this system is broken. This system is wrong.
Right.
Um, and that goes
It's
right to the very end of the film, right? We see that moment. And I'll tell you, this is, I think, a really well judged piece of the film. Because if they really wanted to have given it the kind of happy ending, right, they have an out. At one point, quite near the end, the boss says, "Look, I'll bring you back. You come back to the mill. I'll make you head of safety. I'm fixing the place up." And a part of me was like, "Oh, don't do this. Like, don't make this the ending where he goes back and works for the guy." Um, because it's sick in my mind. Like this, you're gonna go back and work on the same floor where you watched your child die,
right, right.
and and he doesn't. That was really, I was brave of the film for having go no, and I think we understand as viewers that's a big part of the reason I'm not going back to work in the place where my child died. Um,
Wouldn't this make a fascinating double bill with Paul Schrader's Blue Collar
yes,
from like 50 plus years later, right? With a kind of
totally.
different take on things, but that would make for a very interesting double. It just occurred to me now.
Mhm. Um, so yeah, I'll stop gabbing in a second. But for me, I loved this, and this is definitely in my top five William S. Hart's for sure. Obviously, I am the target audience. I'm an angry young. Well, no, I'm an angry old man now. I'm an ex-angry young man. And so yeah, obviously,
You're getting your angry pension soon,
yes. But
where you
yeah,
go to the post office and they just throw it at you. Take your fucking money, you old person.
as a and as a film too. I mean, to me, this as a film stands up very well. I was not looking at my watch. I was not, and given that it's not as action packed as one of his westerns, for example, right? It could have been a bit more boring or meandery than it is, but I feel like it's pretty tight. Like,
I had brought up in the last episode that I felt that the whistle was the stronger of the two non-westerns he made, between this and Cradle of Courage, and I still stick by that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do
you're
think that
right.
the whistle is the stronger film. I mean, Cradle of Courage had some interesting ideas and some rather forward-thinking ideas, but I think it was really the whistle that is really his most underrated gem. I believe in his catalog. I think it's not nearly as discussed or remembered because well, for one thing, it's a William S. Hart film, and he's not as widely discussed as a lot of the other silent film stars of the day, and I think that's something we've discussed before. But it's a William S. Hart film, but it's also a William S. Hart film that's not a Western. And
Mhm.
so it's often like eschewed, like we don't talk about this, and I think that if more people were to see this film and see it in a better copy than we did, I think that there would be some genuine appreciation for this film and some, I mean, sure, I mean, granted, a lot of William S. Hart films. Actually, a lot of William S. Hart films are kind of progressive in that way. I mean, sure, there are the damsels in distress and everything, but as we're going to discuss with the next film, I had actually incorrectly remembered some parts of that film, because that film is actually kind of progressive in some ways. I mean, there are some issues with it, but there are also some progressive ideas in that. So I think, William S. Hart was rather a progressive filmmaker, and I mean, of course, the ugly redheaded stepchild being the Aryan, but other than that, I think that he was a rather progressive filmmaker for his time and really explored
I'd
some
just like
interesting
to
ideas.
apologize on Gino's behalf for all ugly red-headed stepchildren who might be listening for his insensitive remarks. But yeah,
Fair.
to your point, Gino, also you're quite right. I think along with Hell's Hinges in a different way, because Hell's Hinges, just because of the pure cinema of it all, this is of that small group of William S. Hart films that you could just present now to a modern audience, I think, without too much I think people would get it.
Hmm.
So yeah, whether the elements survive or whatever, I don't know, but I can easily see someone putting out like a solid kind of Blu-ray with maybe the film itself in a nice, remastered version. But then this is a film that I think would benefit from a lot of, even though you wouldn't need it, but it would just make it, you could talk about the larger world of the time, have some documentaries about, the burgeoning of labor movements and stuff like that, and or put it on I don't know, some sort of, if there's any other films, I don't know if is there anything else around the same time, like films, silent films that addressed these
Apparently there were,
issues.
so I don't know.
Yes, I think there might
But
be.
when I
Yeah,
was reading a little bit around this film, they did say that this was actually possibly even a slightly late entry in some films that were being made
right.
around this time that were focused on these issues. Yeah.
Or another interesting pairing, not necessarily as a release, but if you were programming for like a theater or something like that, put this on a put this on a double bill with a Soviet film of the same era,
Like a
Right.
just
Battleship
to
Potemkin
compare.
or something, or
Like,
Yeah, or October or something. Sorry,
oh,
not
okay,
October. Strike. I
okay,
guess
right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Like a
that
later
yeah,
that
run
that's
release.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
that would be fascinating just to look at the two side by side, right? Because considering, obviously in later decades we would consider the gulf between both viewpoints towards towards this issue just being insurmountable. And but if you would look at them sides of the side, you'd think, oh, hang on, these films aren't massively that
No.
different.
No. But the history of labor struggle is going to be similar, no wherever in the world it's going on.
No, I know that, but I'm just talking in cinematically.
Right.
It's a good opportunity to
Mm.
because I don't know. I don't think I've ever. Someone must have done it. I mean, someone must have programmed that as a double bill somewhere at some theater, because it strikes me as just a really. I've seen both films, but I'd still go out and see that,
Mhm.
especially if they were decent prints. But also, forgive me for
Mm.
barging in here, but the other thing, sometimes you randomly find things so. IMDb comments can sometimes have interesting things in, and recently they've done that thing where they've locked you out of them unless you
Yeah.
sign in, and I'm not able to sign in, blah blah blah. But
Me
sometimes you see
too.
little,
I'm annoyed.
yeah, and you see little like blurbs from the beginning of them. And
Right.
someone put up one, and at first I thought, it's just, someone, right. And then I thought, that's actually quite a incisive little remark, was to um the whole thing about the whistle was they brought up that song Danny Boy, right? The
The pipes
pipes
are
are calling,
calling.
whatever, which is
Oh, the kid's name is Danny.
yeah, which is it's an
Interesting.
anti-war song. The pipes, I
Yeah.
think, are the bagpipes of war or something, like calling
Yeah.
you to come and war. But I was thinking, fuck, these could be oh shit, the pipes are calling again. I have to go to
Mhm.
work, and So I thought that was a kind of an interesting little comment that someone put two and two together there.
Mhm.
Well, which one came first, the song
The
or the
song's old.
whistle?
Yeah, the song's
Oh,
definitely
Yeah, the
old.
okay.
songs are yeah. But so just sorry, I'll be quiet then, and Gino can finish up with his thoughts. But the other thing that it reminded me a little bit of as well, is um I'm blanking on his name. That man we like a lot, Nick, who did all those social films in the 70s.
Fred Wiseman.
Actor. He's in like Costa Gard versus things, and anyway,
Oh, Jean-Marie
specifically,
Volonté.
yes, yes. This could be a Gian Maria Volente
Yes,
film, almost like the
totally.
working class goes to
Heaven.
heaven or something like that.
Yes.
It's got that, but yes, but apart from that slight, well, we're all a bit, aren't we, leveling thing out, which is actually not necessarily such a bad, terrible, unacceptable message in the wider
No,
scope of things. But sometimes you want your polemic to be polemical, right? And
right.
when they do add that leavening thing, you're like, okay, I see where you've done that, and actually, maybe in general, yes, of course, we are all a bit, aren't we? But sometimes
Specifically, yeah, yes.
you
No, you
want,
do.
yeah,
Rage. You want the rage. And
yeah,
specific to
yeah.
this film, again, another feature I forgot about this, which just adds salt to the wound, and maybe why I'm again so much more sympathetic to Robert Evans than I should be. Because in you know what, a few things. So this is not a good man. Sorry, this is not a bad man goes good. This is a strange thing. This is a good man goes bad, then goes good again story, which is slightly a different wrinkle on the usual, you know,
Well,
William
also it's a man driven insane
by
by
grief.
capitalism, right?
And by grief and
Yeah,
by capitalism. But so do you remember there's the part where they kind of establish very briefly that, and one of the reasons why he does feel sorry for the wife of the boss is that back when he was in high school or something, he was in love with her, and basically he got in a fist fight with this guy over her, but she then kind of makes a comment, well, I went with you, kind of implying in a way like, I married you because you're a rich guy. I mean, I felt that was kind of implied, or certainly that's, I would imagine how William S. Hart's character would see it, like, oh,
Mm,
I lost
that's
a woman,
interesting.
I lost a woman to the rich guy, and then so I mean, he's already going to be sore, right? And he's already going to feel like he's the loser in life. And once again, it's a situation where the rich and their money can take things away from me. And there's no consequences for them because their power and privilege protect them. You can really tell I'm soapboxing now. So I'm going to stop in a
yeah. No,
second.
I was gonna say you were just thinking, oh, I'm lucky I'm the Eric Stoltz here, and I actually managed to, get the girl away from the James Spader character, whatever. In real life,
Exactly.
yes.
Yes. All that stuff speaks to me in a far too personal way. And hence, but yeah, and I guess the other sad thing is,
Welcome
what
to the Nick Therapy Podcast in conjunction with Heart to Heart.
And the last thing I'll say is, I think most dispiriting about the film is the fact that it is timely. And that's awful. A film made in
Yeah.
1921 should not be timely. And yet people are still dying all over the world, in, the developed world, in the developing world, because some people put money above everything else. And
I
it's,
think this film is like I think this film is like a face in the crowd type situation where at the time it wasn't probably well received. Like Andy Griffith should have won an Oscar for his performance as Lonesome Rhodes in A Face in the Crowd. Like, and it's a shame he was never awarded an honorary Oscar for that. But regardless of all that, it's sort of like that situation where A Face in the Crowd just was not well received upon its initial viewing, and I think that film is a film that's more relevant now than it was then.
Mm.
And The Whistle, much in the same way. I think that if, more people like yourself, Nick, were to be exposed to this film, I think that more people's heads would be turned by it and maybe perhaps would, inspire them to delve deeper into William S. Hart's catalog, but
mhm,
certainly would, alert them to this particular film, which I think is sadly a forgotten gem.
mhm. Yep. So this is rare. Are we all in agreement then? This is definitely a top William S. Hart.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
I mean, we've got one coming up, of course, as we say, which is probably invariably going to be impressive as well from memory. But yeah, no, this is
So it's pretty awesome that this late in his, I mean, because
yeah, because I'd
he
almost
only has a few
given
more films
up
left.
on him a little bit because I thought we were in the fallow period, right? We were like, oh well, he's done his bag of tricks now, and now he's just into variation on them or whatever. And then even like the gangster one, you're thinking, yeah, okay, but he's yeah, that's not it's fine. But no, this definitely is. I mean, again, you wouldn't want to overstate it because you don't want a younger audience to go in like wanting their mind blown, and then they're like, "Well,
Right.
that was just an old film about labor relations." But if you temper your just come in, you know, just don't have over expectations or anything. Just. But if you pay attention and it's a quite interesting piece of work. I'm glad it's one along with Helsinger's, for example. It's one of the a handful of reasons other than hanging out with you two that I've enjoyed doing this show because I'm not sure if I ever would have got round to watching this
Hmm.
otherwise. Like, in what other context would it have been presented to me in a way that it would have made me watch it? So
Hmm.
yeah, good. Thank you, Gino.
Hey, I mean, as a long-standing William S. Hart fan, I do think it's a sad shame that a lot of his work has been sort of swept under the rug in favor of highlighting artists like Charlie Chaplin and Harold Lloyd and all the comedians. I mean, while I do think that those artists deserve to be spotlighted, and as well as like your Fairbankses, your Lillian Gishes, your Griffiths, and all those other people. I do think I do think that there is some merit, or actually, no, I think there's a lot of merit to digging into William S. Hart's filmography because you will find some very strong, very tightly woven stories and great films that I think deserve that deserve more attention, far beyond the fact that they're just westerns. I think that the fact that they're westerns, a lot of them, with this and Cradle of Courage being the exceptions, I think that because of that, a lot of people just dismiss his film work, just standing on the outside looking in. Oh, they're just westerns. No, if you really look at the stories that are being told here, they're very strong stories, very tight, and this film is no
Gino, you've just
exception.
given me a great idea. How about we do a podcast about all the existing William S. Hart films and talk about them, and then maybe bring them to a new audience?
Capital idea, Clive. Capital
Hmm.
idea.
Fantastic. Let's get right on that. Yeah, no, this yeah, I actually what now I found myself in the same place that I am with my Doctor Who fandom of very soon I'm going to be sitting there waiting and hoping for the films that are not seeable to become seeable, whether or not.
Oh, you've got to see that one where William S. Hart plays the Rancher versus the Daleks is high on my list. That's up there with London After Midnight. I hope they find that one.
Me
Actually,
too.
doesn't that sound cool? William
That
S.
does.
Hart versus the fucking
There we go.
Daleks.
That
That would be brilliant.
again, maybe a use for AI. Maybe there's some
Yeah,
use for
yeah,
AI
yeah.
after all. But anyway, perhaps we should move on from the old, I should say, to the Old West from, yes, from a gripping and sad story of labor relations. Um, but yeah, this one's interesting. I think this one's more interesting than I thought it was going to be, just because I thought it's another Western and maybe we are at the end of its bag of tricks. But I think there's a few things in here that are new.
And now we are going to move from The Whistle to White Oak, which was released December 18th, 1921. This was produced by the William S. Hart Company and distributed by Paramount Artcraft. It was directed by Lambert Hillier with a screenplay by Bennett Mooson from the story Single Handed by William S. Hart. It was photographed by Joe August with art direction being handled by J.C. Hoffner. It was edited by William O'Shea with art titles by Harry Barndollar. The cast consists of Oak Miller being portrayed by William S. Hart, Barbara being portrayed by Vola Vale, Mark Granger being portrayed by Alexander Gaydon, Harry being portrayed by Robert Walker, Ella Faylet Moss being portrayed by Berthold Sprott, Rose Miller being portrayed by Helen Holly, and Chief Longknife being portrayed by Standing Bear. And the synopsis of this film is Oak Miller, square gambler, deals cards at the Red Fort Saloon, Independence, Missouri, and watches for a chance to punish the man who deceived his sister Rose with a promise of marriage. Rose is ill and under the care of Barbara, with whom Oak is in love. Eliphalet Moss, stepfather of Barbara, is jealous of Oak. Granger, the man Oak is searching for, comes to town disguised and determines to possess Barbara. Granger plots with Chief Longknife to attack a rich emigrant train. The chief is unaware that Granger misused his daughter, Little Fawn. Rose dies. Barbara's stepfather tries to enter the cabin at night and is shot to death by her brother Harry, a tool of Granger's. Barbara is suspected of the crime. To save her, Oak robs Moss's bank and leaves evidence pointing to himself as the robber. Oak is arrested for murder. The emigrant train is attacked by the Indians. Barbara sends a dog with a message for Oak. He breaks jail, goes to the rescue of the immigrants, and the Indians are repulsed when he captures Chief Longknife as a hostage. Longknife kills Granger, and Barbara and Oak are united. I'm going to say this up front. I think this is a much lesser version of William S. Hart's one of his previous films, Wagon Tracks. It shares a lot in common with that film. I mean, both times he's going on a boat and one of his relatives dies. And also, there's a Native American presence in the film. And I had stated during a previous episode that White Oak's representation of the Native Americans was kind of on the more cringeworthy side. But in all actuality, it's another, retribution type deal where, hey, you took Little Fawn from me, I'm going to take someone from you. It's two very similar films, but I feel this is the lesser of the two. And honestly, I'm gonna say this. Um, I watch these films the day of, ladies and gentlemen. But I found this film, or at least this presentation of it, I don't know, to sort of be a slog to get through for me.
Yep.
I didn't really care for this film at all. I just thought that, I mean, I love William S. Hart. I love him to death, but I just think he was going through, everybody was just going through their paces with this. Like, the villain isn't that much of a threat. I thought that Eliphalet Moss was more of a threatening villain than the main villain in this. Evil Santa Claus, looking dude. And, I mean, Vole, beautiful, and everything, but just the film is sort of there for me. It's another case of William S. Hart plateauing a bit. I mean, after the hidden gem masterpiece that was The Whistle, then we get to White Oak, and it's sort of like, eh, it's
That's the
okay.
thing, isn't it? Is especially coming off of The Whistle onto this is it's a kind of a bit of a step down, isn't it?
Right, right.
Yeah, I
What do
do
you
think
think,
you're
Claude?
right, Gino, it's funny, I didn't, for some reason, notice it, but you're right. It is very much a retread of Wagon Trail.
Wagon
Um,
Tracks.
Wagon Track, sorry, yeah. Yeah, like almost,
Bonanza.
that's the one. No. Yeah, but like, there's a lot of the plot beats are taken up. Huh, it's interesting. So maybe, Clive, why don't you speak to it, and then I'll.
Well, the thing with so I love a riverboat. I've never
Mm,
been on a riverboat. Ah, no, hang on, fuck, I have been on a riverboat. But I haven't been on this sort of paddle steam
mm,
riverboat, and I'd love to. Even though I understand nowadays mostly the casinos, or even they would have been back in the day, right? I'm not
yes.
that interested in the gambling aspect of it, but
I'll
being a
go
good
on one just to
Methodist,
hear a Calliope because I love Calliope music.
Mm.
yeah, yeah, just
Oh.
yeah. Um, but no, it'd be cool. I'd like to go on a riverboat, and I'm a big fan of riverboat and a riverboat. And oh, riverboat! I don't know why, something about riverboats, but they're not often very well served in films. And both Wagon Tracks and this, I felt so. The early riverboat stuff was quite static and boring, and people talking in rooms. I know it's a room on a riverboat, but still, when it's clearly some sort of studio interior or something, right? And like exactly like Gino, I found it a bit of a chore. Now, when they hit the plains, when they get on dry land, and there's especially that whole
Yeah,
wagon train roundup
circling the wagons, yeah.
stuff. I thought, oh, now this is good. This is quite epic, and there's a shootout like with William S. up in the rocks and people
Mm.
and all that stuff's really well done. I'd love to see this in a good print because this is really well filmed. Like this is proto like they weren't doing shootouts quite this dynamic and with such a clear understanding of where everyone is in the shootout. I don't think until a long time later, it's a really well done set piece
Hmm.
in the middle of this otherwise kind of a bit boring film. And I thought, oh, it's such a shame because that whole sequence is amongst one of the better action sequences I think we've seen in any of these films. I thought it was really impressively choreographed. But then once it's gone, and then and then we're back coming off of the whistle. Other things that are more problematic are amplified, like another simpering, pathetic female character, like and it's just everything just it seems in relation to having just seen the whistle, it's two steps forward, one step back, or whatever. But I did really admire the that particularly that extended action set piece. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, that it was. It was.
Yeah. But other than
Um,
that, the rest of it, and yeah, the river, but it's like it's just not staged well enough. Like, so for instance, when she jumps off the riverboat, and I understand rivers have currents and stuff, so even if they look relatively safe, it is dangerous. But on film, she just jumps off, the bank is just there, and you just think, wow, well, she'd be all right. But all these dudes are like, no, and jumping off and lowering a boat, and I'm thinking, by the time you get that fucking boat down, she's wandered off onto the banks of the river and run away, right? So just in terms of establishing that on screen, it didn't give me any sense of peril or she was in any danger. I just thought
So
she's fine. Yeah.
that said, when William S. Hart gets news that his sister has fallen off a riverboat or jumped off a riverboat because of a cad,
Mm.
he rides like hell. Then he fires off a flare gun, it looks like, to alert the boat to like slow down, and then dives into the water to swim after it and clamber
Yes,
on board. And I was like, that's cool. That's
it's
a cool.
cool, but at
and he
this
holds the
point,
captain. I think yeah.
she's already nursing a whiskey in the nearest saloon. She's over it.
Sure.
It's like, yeah.
Sorry, do you know what you were saying there?
And if I remember correctly, because and again, I just saw the film this morning, and I had seen it once before many years ago. Um, I think he has like a knife or gun in his hand, and like he's basically pointing it at the captain to be like, "You show me where this asshole is, or
Hmm.
I'm gonna tear some ass up."
Yep.
Basically, you know what I mean?
Yep. And he has it's funny. I reviewed, like, I just kind of scanned through it quickly this morning. I was trying to figure out how does he know the CAD, right? And then, but there is a photograph of the villain that he kind of has at that moment. He gets eyes on him. And is like, okay, yeah, where's this guy? I want to kick
Hmm.
this guy's ass. But I would say too, do we think that the this is by far the longest of any of the films we've seen so far, right? This is nearly 15 minutes long. Like most of this era of William S. Hart's are 59, 60 minutes, right? But this one's more like 75.
Yeah,
Don't forget the
seven
Nick to
reels.
account. We might be missing bits from some of them as well, right? These might not
Right.
necessarily be
Okay,
representative of the original cuts. Just to put
sure.
that out there. Yeah.
Okay. But I wondered if that was maybe it might have felt a bit more of a slog just because there was actually more, it was a longer film by
Right, right,
a
yeah.
reasonable chunk.
And I have
Um,
ADHD, so that doesn't help.
no, me neither. Doesn't help me either. But I think that the things that I liked, I mean, I re so the I know the villain, like he's kind of like, yeah, he's not top tier. But at the
He's
same
no
point, I did
Robert
enjoy.
McKim, I'll tell you that.
No, no, no. But I kind of did like how every time he shows up, no matter where it is, someone's like, "Hey, didn't you abduct, interfere with, and then abandon my sister?" Like it's like everyone in the film, this dude's like thing or daughter or enter whatever like family member, dental hygienist. This guy just seems to have like a knack for finding ladies and then screwing them up.
He's got a
Serial
franchise going.
abandoner.
Yeah, yeah. He's a real jerk. I mean, it's just funny. By the third time it happens, I was actually like, I laughed when the guy was like, when he was like, "Hey, keep it down about," because he's the guy who has abducted the chief's daughter, right? He's the reason why the tribe is so angry.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, he's gone after William S. Hart's sister, who, as many fictional characters do, dies of sadness, which is something I'm always shaking my head at and feels like nobody dies of sadness. That's not something that can happen. When will writers get this into their heads? But then,
Could be
yeah, and
argued that
then
Debbie Reynolds died of sadness, after her daughter Carrie Fisher passed.
okay, okay, but I'm sure there's still some underlying factor or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah,
I
I
just,
mean, she
you
was
know,
getting up there in years, but
yeah,
still, I'm sure that the death of her daughter didn't help.
didn't help, no, for sure. Um, but so there's that, and then the other guy, like I did enjoy when they introduce, so so William S. Hart's love interest, right? She has this evil stepfather, and his card says, praise on his knees 1 day a week, and on the community the other six. I
Yes,
thought
that was good.
that was a nice little witty turn of phrase. And yeah, he's not a great father-in-law. He's not quite Humbert from Lolita, but he's definitely heading in that direction, it seems. Um, so yeah, that I like. And then the other thing was what William S. Hart is wearing threw me for a loop. When he's first introduced, he's looking like Oscar Wilde. He's got this like mop of hair, and he's
Yeah,
wearing
his
kind of like
hairstyle in this it throws me every time I watch this film, and to see him in a top hat and a suit like this, I mean, what
yeah.
the hell is
He's
this?
wearing a puffy ruffle shirt and what looks like a
Yeah,
crushed velvet smoking jacket. I'm
I
like,
feel I'm not authorized, but I feel it might actually be quite authentic, though. I
it
think
probably
that
is.
is like a
Yeah.
that is a kind of, oh no, we're smarten up now, we're going to the riverboat. It's not just, you have to put on a tux or something. It's like it was a night out, right? Like
Mm,
depending, I'm sure
mm,
there were some, you know, riverboats that were along really scruffy kind of working man's kind of shit kickers and everything, and you could just wander on no matter how drunk you were. But I have a feeling
mm.
there were certain riverboats that were like considered classy, you
I
know.
better get my fop dandy clothes out
Yeah, the
and
gentry go there, That's not
drink a
there's
mint julep.
downriver. There's a really horrible fucking dilapidated boat, but those nice paddle ones, those are for
Mm.
like the gentry or something.
No, sorry, this is completely aside, but am I wrong? It is Western related at least. But is 90% of Django Strikes Again, does that not take place on a riverboat, one of those big paddle boats? That's all I remember about the film. I only saw it once because it's
Yeah,
awful.
I blocked that out of my mind as well. I don't
But I
really
have a
remember.
feeling it's very riverboat centric.
Maybe. But
Um,
again, I'd love to see a good riverboat film is something. Oddly enough, a film you wouldn't think necessarily I would like, and I haven't seen it for the longest time, but I remember going to see it in a theater when it was new. Was Maverick with Mel Gibson was actually not bad, and I believe largely on a
that's
riverboat
with
as well.
James Garner as well, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
the original star of the TV series, yeah, and
yeah,
Jodie
okay.
Foster, and yeah. I seem to
Huh,
remember that being a pretty good riverboat film.
okay.
So yeah, if any listeners have actually, this is genuine. Normally we're just making fun when we say this, but actually I really want to know if someone has a list good riverboat films. I'd like to know.
Okay.
I would really like
And
to see have a little riverboat film festival or
if
something.
I'm not wrong, Clive, I was on two while I was in Japan. I think there's one in Shimoda that takes you, but it's not a riverboat, it's a sea boat, but it does have the big thing at the back. And
Yes,
it's a
yes.
fake black ship from like Admiral Perry or whatever you go around. And then there's
Yeah,
another one
yeah,
up
yeah.
in the mountains near Hakone that's like a pirate one piece
Oh,
ship.
I've been on that one. Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
a pirate ship. That's
But it's
that's
got a big thing on the back.
yeah,
It's
no,
got
that doesn't count. Plus, that's a volcanic lake. I want to be on
okay.
a
On a
river.
river.
I want to
Okay,
be in
okay.
a river that
All right.
goes straight. Yeah.
Um, but anyway, Chief Luther Standing Bear is an interesting guy. Did anyone look him up? Because I was interested. So he's the guy who plays the chief in the film, right? He
Right,
plays
right.
Chief Longknife. So he was a chief. That wasn't like an adoptive. That wasn't a Hollywood name. So like Chief Dan George, a generation later was to Clint Eastwood's Pale Rider and Little Big Man. He seems to have had a genuine interest in attempting to kind of use Hollywood films to adjust thinking about Indigenous Americans, right? He also admits apparently in his writings that he completely failed. It was not doable at that time to necessarily, um, you know, go get that far. But he mentioned at one point that Lambert, because he originally he came to this film because Lambert Hillier hired him as like an Indigenous kind of coordinator and like interpreter, I guess, and then he gets cast in the role. Um, but apparently they talked, and Lambert had said, "I'm interested in doing like a really good film about indigenous, the ways of life and ways of thinking, and like, would you collaborate?" But nothing ever came of it, sadly. Um, but anyway, yeah, interesting guy. His Wikipedia entry is worth reading.
Well, now that you say that, along with the list of um, riverboat films, please send them in. I would also be good. I don't think I've ever really seen anyone because I would imagine because the research would be so vast because you would have to watch almost everything and you'd have to cherry pick here and there because you wouldn't have any indicators on where to find them. I would love, I don't know if anyone's ever actually written a book about this. It would be fascinating to read a book about not in general, I kind of understand that, but if someone wrote a book about westerns up until like say the 1960s and what are the westerns where there is a strong indigenous presence in the film which is accurate and it is somewhat sympathetic and they're not just the villains and just how many films out there maybe not in their entirety, but have scenes or whatever that you could kind of use as like oh, here's good representation in Hollywood.
In
Like
that,
that would be
so
fascinating.
that Neil Diamond, not the singer, but the film director, that Neil Diamond documentary, Real Engine, right? REEL. It
Yes.
does talk about the silent era being much more progressive, generally speaking, around how Indigenous people
Right.
were
But again, that
presented
film's more about showing up how that isn't the case. I'd like to see
later
one that
on.
focused on like,
Yes.
here's the
So,
good stuff.
but I
Yeah.
mean, the one that I always come back to, and I've seen a couple of times, is The Silent Menace, which is about a group of Ojibwe, it's an Ojibwe tribe attempting to basically just stave off starvation during a particularly cold winter, and it's set pre-contact, so there are no Caucasians in the film.
What year is that? I
I'll,
mean, roughly.
I'll
Is it
Google it.
70s, 80s, 90s?
No, it's a silent, right?
Oh, whoa, 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 okay.
Yeah,
I don't know this one.
it's mostly silent. It opens with another chief speaking at the very beginning, so there is a spoken part at the very beginning, but most of the film is silent.
It's interesting that you bring this up because, as I'm apt to do, I was browsing oldies.com for their alpha video titles, and I came across a particular DVD that they've released where it's all like Native American films. And there's a film on there, I kid you not, directed by, of all people, D.W. Griffith, that's actually sympathetic towards Native Americans. He didn't like black people too much, but
Hmm.
dude certainly liked his Native Americans. So.
Yeah, there's one of his I've seen. Is it called By Indian Post or something from like 1915?
Hmm.
And I can't remember if it was sympathetic or not, but it just had a lot more in it than you might, it wasn't just oh yeah, headdresses and whoa, it was like a bit more
Sorry,
specifically detailed.
1930s, The Silent Enemy, not The Silent Menace, The Silent Enemy,
Ah, okay.
1930. Um,
Bang on 1930.
yeah.
Okay. I shall check that out.
But yeah, yeah. Anyway, I would recommend that as a starting place. And all the actors are indigenous. I will say, actually, my students and I, when I lived on the reserve, we did have this plan. We did write the script, and I'm sad we never made it. But because they were like teenage Anishinaabe or Ojibwe boys, and so the idea was like I would play like a clueless ethnographer, like with like leather elbow patches on the tweed jacket and stuff like that, and they would say
Right.
things like, oh, we
Role
need.
meant for you,
Yeah, I know.
David
And
Beverly
so
Dave.
the scene we had planned was like what one of them was going to be like, "Oh, we find our food in nature." And he was going to lean down like and then lift up a leaf, and there'll be a bag of Skittles under it. And he's like, and I was like, "Yes." And I'll be like there with my notebook being like, "Oh, tell me more. This is
You
fascinating."
know what this is reminding me of, this conversation? It's actually reminding me of the Wheeler and Woolsey film, Diplomaniacs,
Mm,
where they're basically, where Wheeler and Woolsey are basically barbers on an Indian reservation, and they're
Okay.
sent to the Geneva Peace Conference to make peace. Meanwhile, Lewis Calhern is the villain of the piece, and he wants to wage war with all these countries and the Indians and everything just to sell bullets. And it's a really freaking hilarious film,
Okay.
and I think a lot of people misunderstand it. It's poking fun at everybody. I mean, sure,
Right.
there's a blackface segment, but hey, they're making fun of everybody. They're making fun of the greedy white man. They're making fun of the black man. They're making fun of literally everybody. And nobody's off the table with that film, and that's what I like about it. And so basically, the main Indian chief, who Wheeler and Woolsey are hired by to wage peace, Woolsey goes up to him and is like, "Hi, Watha, how?" And says, "You speak English?" And the chief is like, "Not very fluently. I'm not very familiar with your language." And then it turns out he studied at Harvard or Oxford or something.
Nice, nice.
I think when we talked about it, right, and in general, people often, just to sell it to you further, Nick, it's kind of considered the unknown companion piece to Duck Soup.
It's
Isn't
like
it?
duck soup on crack, basically.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. It's
Crack
really
soup, sign me up.
good.
But anyway, I feel like we're maybe, as we often do, straying further and further away from the film at hand because we're not as excited about.
We're off
Right.
reservation.
Yes, yes. This one is not. You're right. This is a bit William S. Hart by numbers, sadly.
But with some excellent action choreography. I
Yes,
would like
yes.
to stress that
And
because
with a
I was
huge,
quite impressed by it.
huge cast of extras in those final scenes. Like I was kind of a few moments I was like, there's a lot of people on screen in the circling the wagon scene.
Mhm.
Maybe one of the biggest crowd scenes of any of the William S. Hart films we've seen up to this point, I feel. So it seems like some money was definitely thrown at this. And to your point, Clive, about the way it's shot too, I noticed in this one some really impressive long shots.
Yes.
More than maybe in any of the other films. Some really
Lots going
awesome.
on in the frame,
Yeah.
which always kind of looks, you'd think it would be easier, right? Because you're not having to cut it up. But no. That requires a lot of prep to pull that off. And if you fuck it up, you have to go back to the beginning again. Like,
Yes.
so yeah, very, very well done. I was genuinely very impressed by that stuff.
Number one or number two in the shittest prisons that they have stuck William S. Hart in. There was that one where he was able to get out just by pushing his back against the ceiling, I seem to remember quite recently. But in this one, a
The
dog
testing
can
block,
just
yes.
yeah. In this one, a
Oh,
dog
the
can just
dog, yeah.
can just dig a little bit on one side and then he starts
Yes.
pulling bricks out of the floor like there's no cement with them.
Yeah, he suddenly pops out like he's fucking Janus Stark, doesn't he? He's just
Yeah.
squeezed through the
Well,
drain
look at
pipe.
it from this vantage point. William S. Hart is such a badass that no prison can hold him.
Yes, there we go. It's
yes,
the
true.
original Chuck Norris memes, William S. Hart memes.
Yes. We should do that. We should, yeah. People go, what the hell is this? People probably won't even remember who Chuck Norris is in a few years,
Right.
let alone William. But
I was
anyway.
just recently watching that film, Ninja Strikes Back, the Bruce Lee film made by Dick Randall, and Dick Randall's wife has a part in it, and she's credited as Chick Norris.
Chick Norris, yep.
Hmm.
Nice.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, this one's you can probably give this a miss. Certainly if you've seen, sorry, what is it called again? Wagons? What's the
Wagon Tracks.
Wagon Tracks? Yeah, if you've seen Wagon Tracks, you definitely don't need to probably, unless like us, you're
Doing a
Right.
podcast about all the films of William S. Hart. In which case, good luck to you. Yes.
if you're completing the set as we are, and is it?
Well, I do wonder if, like you were saying, running out of Doctor Who episodes thing, it would be kind of interesting, I don't know, in like a decade or something, the Heart to Heart podcast rides again, maybe for a special one-off or something, maybe after, I don't know, a handful of William S. Hart, so we could keep an eye on, I'm sure Gino will be keeping an eye on that anyway, but that would be a cool thing to be able to do, right?
Well,
And,
there
you know,
still is the forthcoming the saga of William S. Hart that I will be releasing soon.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Well, with that, I think
yeah.
that'll probably be the last show in this run, though, right? Probably, I would imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
Because to give a little peek behind the curtain with that, I have acquired the talents of Mr. Ray Lowe to perform the score for that film. And he told me that he'll likely be working on that sometime in September, late September, mid-October, and that's probably when it'll be available for us to view. And I want to thank him for that. And I also
Thank you, Ray.
want to thank Stan Taffel for completing the transfer, and I also want to thank my friend Steve Latshaw of the director of the Museum of Western Film History for funding this project. So this is going to be quite exciting to release this film, this rare William S. Hart film with footage from other William S. Hart films thought to be lost, including The Desert Man, The Aryan, O'Malley of the Mounted, films that just aren't available for us to view at current time. So it'll be great to be able to view these even snippets of films that we haven't been able to see before. So that'll be interesting. And I want to thank again Steve Latshaw, Stan Taffel, and Ray Lowe for their combined efforts in helping me present this.
Definitely.
Hang on. This wouldn't be Steve Latshaw of Jack-O fame.
Yes, he's a friend of mine.
Oh, interesting. We should probably think about getting him on some sort of pod at some point to talk about his career. He's got some.
I could connect you to him if you want me to.
Yeah, that would be interesting. He's made some interesting films, that's for sure.
Okay, yeah.
Including the sequel to Killer Shrews, Return of the Killer Shrews,
wow.
2012. Yeah.
Okay.
But also not. I mean, he's been around. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure he's got a million stories. Yeah. Let's have him on in some capacity. That's your homework, Gino, to get him to talk to us about something.
Maybe I can get him on for Tumbleweeds, and we could use that as an excuse.
Oh yeah, if you'd be interested, sure.
Yeah,
and then we could, because especially if we're only doing one episode for that show, we could also do that and also have a bonus. If Steve will talk to us, just give us a little bit of a potted overview of his career, because there's a lot of interesting stuff in there.
Right, definitely.
Cool. Right, ride us on out then, Gino.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for listening to the latest episode of Heart to Heart, the William S. Hart podcast. I've been Gino Cuddy, and I've been joined by my regular co-hosts, Nick Sheehan and Clive Davis. You could find us on Spotify podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, anywhere where you could find great podcasts. We're even on YouTube, so you can find us all there. And I want to thank everybody who's come with us on this journey thus far, and will continue to come on the journey when we venture into our next and possibly ultimate episode, which is our reviews of both Three Word Brand and Tumbleweeds. And,
it is two films. Sorry, I was
and so that about does it, ladies and gentlemen. In the words of William S. Hart, adios amigos, God bless you all, each and every one.
This has been a Gino Cuddy podcast production.